along. What fishermen look for water in dry, dead riverbeds? Besides dumb one. Those who hope for spiritual progress but cultivate neither wisdom nor merit. Okay, what fishermen look for water in dry, dead riverbeds? Those who hope for spiritual progress but cultivate neither wisdom nor merit. Okay, so a fisher person looking to go fishing in a dry, dead riverbed isn't going to get anywhere, because there's nothing there that is going to nourish what he wants to do. So in a similar way, if we hope to progress along the path, but we don't accumulate merit and accumulate wisdom, then it's the same thing. Our mind is like a dry, dead riverbed. We're not creating the cause for spiritual progress. Okay? So the accumulation of wisdom is what actually is going to free the mind from defilements. Yeah? And so that's by meditating on emptiness and gaining a direct perception of emptiness. But before that, studying emptiness, thinking about it, and so on. But then the accumulation of merit is just as important, because when you're ascending the bodhisattva paths, although once you hit the path of seeing, it's all the ultimate bodhicitta, the wisdom realizing emptiness, that's the whole bodhisattva, that's what's meant by the path, the mind of that person. But it's the accumulation of merit that enables the mind, how to say it, it's what pushes the mind along, It's the accumulation of merit that enables you to gain the realizations of emptiness and so on, because accumulation of merit is like accumulating goodness. It involves enriching the mind. So purification, is part of that. Practicing generosity, ethical conduct, fortitude, all the different bodhisattva practices that we do to, enrich the mind with this positive energy. And that's so important because without it, we don't get the upper rebirths that we're going to need to have in order to practice the path and develop the wisdom realizing emptiness. And also, without the accumulation of merit, our mind isn't going to be fertile and receptive enough to actually have the realization of emptiness. Then you might say, but for the hearers and solitary realizers, they don't need as much accumulation as merit as the bodhisattvas do in order to realize emptiness directly. So you could say that. So then why don't we just go that thing? What's the big thing about accumulating merit? If you can get the direct realization of emptiness without accumulating so much merit, and emptiness is what liberates you, why don't we just go through the hearer path? Well, the reason is that to progress along the bodhisattva path, you need these, incredible accumulations of merit that go far, far beyond those done by the hearers and solitary realizers. And so you wind up attaining a different goal, because the hearers and solitary realizers will attain liberation from samsara. They still have the cognitive obscurations on their minds. But the bodhisattvas will attain full awakening that is freed of both obscurations. Yeah, the afflictive obscurations and the cognitive obscurations. And so for that you need your accumulation of merit to be much bigger and much broader. And you need your realization of wisdom to be multifaceted. You know, in the Here and Solitary Realizer vehicles, you usually use one reasoning to realize emptiness, you know, and one reasoning is good enough, you know, but if you want to follow the Bodhisattva vehicle, in order to teach others, you need to be able to approach emptiness from many, many different perspectives and know many different reasonings, so that you can teach those different reasonings to sentient beings according to who is more receptive to which reasoning versus another one. And so to teach those, you have to know them, you have to meditate on them. And so it does, while the emptiness you realize is the same, it does affect the realization of emptiness, because you're able to come at it from so many different perspectives. Okay? And, you know, to go from one bodhisattva level to the next, you need the accumulation of merit to do it. You know, it's not just by the accumulation of wisdom that you go up the bodhisattva path, because, you know, although your wisdom increases in power to reduce the, you know, and eliminate the defilements as you progress from path of seeing, path of meditation, path of no more learning, your wisdom gets more powerful and can eliminate, you know, more levels of defilement. You also need the accumulation of merit that's going to give your wisdom the strength and power to be able to do that. Okay? So you need to accumulate merit all through the bodhisattva path, which is why in the sutra vehicle it takes 3 countless great eons to do that, while in the Sravaka vehicle you get to liberation in, from the Tibetan viewpoint, 3 lives, from the Theravada viewpoint, 7 lives. Okay, so much quicker for them. But the realization and the ability to benefit sentient beings is drastically different. Okay, so we want to enter the bodhisattva path from the beginning and go straight. Okay, the collection of merit ripens primarily in the form bodies of the Buddha, you know, and those are the ones that enable a Buddha to communicate with sentient beings, you know, so those are quite important. And the accumulation of wisdom ripens principally in the Dharmakaya, the mind of the Buddha and the ultimate nature of that mind. Okay, so they complement each other. Those 2 accumulations complement each other. You need both of them, yeah, but they primarily ripen in different ways. But it's not like you can accumulate all the merit for Buddhahood without developing the accumulation of wisdom too, and get the Buddha bodies but without getting the Dharmakaya. No, you attain all the Buddha bodies at the same time. So these 2 accumulations have to be brought to culmination at the same time. And one of the reasons that Tantra is so powerful is, this is one of the reasons, is that it enables you to accumulate the merit needed on the bodhisattva path more quickly than the paramita or the far-reaching vehicle does. Yeah, and that's because of special ways that you have of meditating, in the Vajrayana. Okay. Is it relating to what we discussed yesterday, that we're so focused on what I'm not doing and picking faults at ourselves, so that even though we're accumulating merit, we're down in the dumps all the time because we're criticizing ourselves? Okay. Well, like I was saying yesterday, you know, when we have this self-critical attitude, that is a negative mental state. So it's going to impede our creation of merit. Yeah, okay? Because regret is very different than self-criticism. Okay? They're very different mental states, and this is what we really have to see. Regretting our negative actions is a virtuous mental state. Sitting there criticizing ourselves and telling us ourselves we're so stupid and we're not practicing correctly is not a virtuous mental state, okay? Learning to look at ourselves and evaluate ourselves and say, I need to improve in this area, I need to work more on this, that is a virtuous mental state. But criticizing ourselves for not doing that is an impediment, okay? And our problem is that we can't tell the difference, you know, between them. Because the one that is saying, okay, you know, like, it would be really nice if I got up earlier, it would be really nice if I, you know, I need to focus on my morning practices a little bit better instead of rushing through them and slow them down maybe and focus them, or learn how to maybe go quickly in one part and so I can focus on the important parts of the sadhana. So I need to, you know, learn to do that better. So that's quite realistic. And, you know, and your intention there is really to improve your practice, okay? That is different than saying, oh, I always rush through my practices. I don't do them well. I really should stop and, you know, meditate on emptiness, but I just really don't want to because I'm so lazy, and my whole practice, I'm just so lazy all the time. Do you hear the difference in those two ways of thinking and speaking to ourselves? Yeah? So the first one is going to be more encouraging. It's like, okay, this would be good for you to do, so, you know, let's think about the benefits of doing it and go ahead and do it. And the other one just is discouraging, isn't it? Yeah? So that's the difference, and that's why it's so important to really stop this self-critical mind. Okay? Yeah. You may find, it happens sometimes when you read the sutras, sometimes, I mean, the Buddha will sometimes really reprimand somebody and say, you foolish monastic, what are you doing thinking like that? That's totally wrong. When he does that, it's to get the person to have a sense of the positive kind of shame, you know? And here, remember, there's two meanings of shame, even in English. One is, you know, one is the negative, I'm so bad, I'm inherently bad, I'm hopeless, yeah. But the other is, I have some potential, but I'm not using it, you know? Or I'm representing a group, but I'm really mucking up, you know? It's a sense of like, I need, you know, this would be, for example, if the Buddha was reprimanding one of the disciples for some kind of wrong view, the disciple is going to say, oh, yeah, he's right. I wasn't thinking properly. I have this potential, and I got myself really stuck in wrong views, and I want to get myself out of that wrong view so that I can really repay the Buddha's kindness for teaching me and, you know, make some progress. So I'm ashamed of like how I got stuck in this wrong view, which was totally unnecessary. Okay, so do you get the tone there? That's the positive kind of shame. The negative kind of shame, which is what in the West we usually think of when we hear the word, is, well, you're so incapable, of course you had a wrong view. You're never going to have the right view. You know, just quit it because you're so dumb. Okay? So, you know, the virtuous sense of shame is something good, and that's why the Buddha will reprimand somebody. And that person can also reprimand himself in the same way. Like, gee, I'm a follower of the Buddha. What happened to me that I was holding on to this totally wrong view? That's not very good, you know. I'm really glad the Buddha scolded me because it made me wake up, and now I'm going to, you know, put my energy in the right direction. Okay?